In 2017, in my last semester of high school, some friends and I decided to skip the pep rally for the girls' varsity basketball team making the playoffs for the first time. My last period of the day was theater tech. I was just taking it as a fine arts credit, and two friends of mine in the grade below me were in that class with me. We decided to skip the pep rally, leave school early, and go to the nearby Taco Bell like we did every day. However, administrators and security guards patrolled the parking lots to catch kids trying to skip, so we took a detour through the nature trail on campus, in order to avoid them. Once in the nature trail, we came across this kid I hadn't seen before. He was a skinny white kid with shaggy black hair, wearing baggy jeans and a plain white t-shirt. He was shorter than me, but the most notable thing about him was his general look of dishevelment. His hair was wild and full of leaves and twigs, his plain white t-shirt was dirty, and the knees of his jeans were stained green and brown. He seemed like he had been crawling around in the nature trail. I remember wondering if he lived there for a split second. When we came upon him, we were walking one direction, parallel to the school, and to the back of the parking lot, and he was coming directly toward us. I knew the nature trail well enough to know there was a bend that led deep into the woods, and I figured he had come from there. He was out of breath, and he looked scared. My two friends said hi to them. My friends were in the grade below me, and later told me that the kid was in their grade, and was just acquaintances with my two friends. It was supposed to be just a quick hello, but I couldn't help but notice how scared he looked, and how suspicious he seemed of us. He asked us what we were doing in the woods and we told him we were skipping the pep rally. One of my friends asked, "What have you been doing out here? Camping?" Me and my other friend gave a nervous laugh, but the kid didn't crack a smile. He explained that he was dropped off at school that morning, and was supposed to get on a bus to take him to Deep. Deep was the alternative school that kids who got suspended from school went to. His plain outfit started to make sense now. It was the infamous uniform of the alternative school. He then explained that he didn't want to go to the alternative school, so when his mom dropped him off, he pretended like he would wait for the bus, and then hid in the nature trail the full 8 hours of the school day. He was still acting really skittish, and without even looking at each other, or speaking to each other, my friends and I could feel that something wasn't right, and that we were in some kind of danger. The kid looked around nervously often, as if seeing if someone might have followed us, or if we were alone in the woods. We hit him with a "All right man, well good luck, we're going to try to get to our cars, and go home before the pep rally ends." When he heard the word cars he perked up. He started walking with us towards the parking lot, continuing to talk. He becomes a lot more friendly, and asks if we can give him a ride home. We give him some half-baked excuse why we couldn't. We didn't expect him to ask that. I never met him, and my friends barely knew him, but he doesn't take no for an answer. He tells us that people were going to start looking for him pretty soon, and that he was going to be in a lot of trouble. We tell him that he'd probably be fine hiding there that deep in the nature trail, but he tells us, "Nah man, you don't understand. I broke into a car at the Fellowship." He pointed in the direction of the mega church that had a parking lot that backed up to my school. I took this. From his waistband he pulled out a handgun, and I felt sick to my stomach. I had never seen a gun in real life. At this point I really felt in danger. Not just because he had produced a gun. I had never really been scared of them. More so that the entire interaction felt uneasy, and that the guy was already unsettling and desperate. One of my friends very cautiously tells him that he should probably just ditch it and take off somewhere, and he just stood there, staring at us for an uncomfortable amount of time. His eyes were meeting each of ours. I broke the silence by saying that we wouldn't tell anyone, but that we really had to go before the pep rally ended, and my other stupid-ass friend, who had been virtually silent the entire time, spoke up and said, "Yeah, and it's best we're not around if they start looking for you," for that, gesturing to the handgun. His eyes narrowed, and once more he asked if one of us could take him home. This time, it felt more like a command. I've never been a super brave person, but in that moment, I don't know why, I just blurted out, "Nah man, I'm good." Again, there was an uncomfortable silence. Then, he asked, "Before you leave, do you guys want to see something?" My first friend was kind of a hothead, and although he was uncomfortable with the situation, he was not afraid of conflict. Nor was I. My other friend, however, was not a fan of conflict and always would de-escalate first. We all looked at each other and me, and my first friend kind of had an unspoken understanding like, if this is going to happen, if we have to run or fight, we might have to do it now. My other friend was very visibly afraid. He asked, "What do you want to show us?" And before the kid could answer, my first friend said, "We don't want to see. We have to go." My first friend started briskly walking past the kid, and me and the other friend quickly followed. Within a few steps, we just started sprinting towards the parking lot. I looked back once we were about 50 steps away. I looked back, and he was still standing there, watching us run. He had put the gun back in his waistband, before taking a small adjacent trail back deeper into the woods. By the time we made it to the parking lot, there were police everywhere. We were sweating, out of breath, and terrified. They found the kid in the next 10 minutes. Somehow, in the chaos, nobody saw us exit the nature trail and into the parking lot, but since there were so many cops in the parking lot, we decided to just head back inside through another side door to find that the door was locked. That's when an administrator found us, brought us inside, and shoved us into a classroom, where we were able to talk with others and find out what was going on. This is what we could piece together from what we learned. Turns out, that kid had skipped deep, hid in the nature trail, broke into a car at the church, and stole a semi-automatic shotgun and a handgun from the car. After stealing the guns, he texted his girlfriend and told him that he was about to do something really terrible, and that when she saw his name on the news she should turn off the TV. He told her explicitly he was going to kill kids at school. She knew he was supposed to be in deep, and was so worried about the texts that she contacted the police. Deep went on lockdown until officers got a call from a guy at the church that 2 guns had been stolen from his car behind the school, and that's when they put 2 and 2 together and caught him hiding in the woods. I guess when he saw me and my 2 friends in the nature trail, he quickly hid the shotgun, but didn't have time to hide the pistol, or didn't care enough to hide. This past year in college, we had a ghost named Gideon living in our dorm who has followed my roommate from place to place, or so he claims. He dubbed the ghost Gideon. He would hear his name, have his bed being shaken in the middle of the night, stuff like that. He wasn't the only one to experience it. As the school year went on, Gideon began to get comfortable with all of us, and activity began to become frequent. When alone, I've heard faucets running, so I looked about and found nobody to be in the dorm apartment. I've heard knocking on my door, and when I opened it, nobody would be there. I'd hear knocking on my door, quick little raps of about 3 to 5 knocks every time I'm alone in the dorm apartment with my bedroom door closed. Every once in a while, late in the night, I'll hear a loud slap on my door, or on my wall. I have a metal water bottle I keep on my windowsill, and one night it sounded as though someone was just picking it up and setting it down softly, just enough so there would be a metallic clinking on the sill, which happened to be made of concrete or something. I heard a noise, as though something had fallen off of my desk. When I woke up, my chapstick was on the floor beside my bed, which had originally been standing up in the middle of my desk. I heard it drop to the floor the night before, but my windows were closed, and my fan was off, so I don't know how it could have gotten there. Something handed my pillow to me. I woke up sometime in the night to find it wasn't on the bed, reached out groggily, and it was suddenly in my hand. Something had tried unlocking my roommate's door from the outside. He found little scratches from where the door meets the frame, and the catch on the door was scratched as well. I had a guest spending the night, and they saw some strange shadow moving on my ceiling. We tried to recreate the shadow, but couldn't. The shades were down, so there wasn't too much light coming in. My roommate was alone, and saw somebody out of the corner of his eye walk past his room. It doesn't sound weird, but the figure was walking toward the wall that's just windows, and there's nothing there other than a couch. When he left his room, to see who it was, there was nobody there, and nobody could have gone anywhere being that we were on the 5th floor. One afternoon, my other roommate, the one who brought Gideon with him, of course, saw a shadow figure walk into one of the bathrooms. One night, I experienced a loud knock on my door. I said, "Yeah," got up and opened my door. There was, of course, nobody there, and at the same time as I opened my door, my roommate across from me opened his door claiming somebody knocked on his door. He thought it was me. I thought it was him. We had our doors knocked on at the exact same time. I never felt Gideon was a bad presence, just kind of there, and doing his thing. There was never anything bad that happened to any of us having him there, other than an eerie feeling being alone in the place, as though you weren't entirely alone. I had a randomly assigned roommate in college who was a very sweet, religious girl. She kept to herself mostly, but she was always really kind and polite. This was the first year I didn't seem to have a bitchy roommate, so I was excited to get along with her. About 2 nights after we get moved in, I wake up to hear someone sobbing softly outside my bedroom door. It was a really weird sound, this kind of desperate, creaky sobbing, and I was so fucking scared at first, because it sounded like the shit you hear in horror movies, or like The Witch, if you've played Left 4 Dead. I heard someone moving around the apartment and occasionally coming back to my door, scratching on it softly, so I finally summoned the courage to peek out of my bedroom. My roommate was just walking around the apartment, crying. She was sleepwalking apparently, because her eyes were closed, but when I opened the door her head turned to look right at me. Then, she slowly went to the kitchen table, picked up a pencil, and started to scrawl this weird symbol on her door. It looked like a circle with a triangle in it. I asked her if she was okay, and she just stood there, swaying and crying, and I was basically just like nope and locked the door. The next morning, she was really scared and mad at me because this demon symbol had appeared on her door, and she thought I had done it to prank her. She didn't believe me when I told her she was the one who did it, but accepted my denials that I did it, and we dropped it. Several times throughout the year, I'd wake up in the middle of the night to her in the kitchen, talking to herself. Every time, she would come to scratch softly on my door, and every morning, there would be another symbol on her door. She was still convinced it was me fucking with her. I considered filming her, but honestly I was really scared of opening the door because I watched too many scary movies about demons and shit. Then one time, we were in our separate dorm rooms when there was a huge bang from her bathroom. There was obviously no one else in the dorm, so we were both really freaked out, but we decided to investigate. We looked everywhere and nothing had fallen down, and there were no windows or other doors to the bathroom, other than the one leading to our living room. We pulled back the shower curtain, and there was a huge arc of blood on the wall. She went pale but had no explanation for this. Later that night, while I was studying in total silence, she rushed into my room and demanded to know what I had said. I asked her what she was talking about, and she said she was in the bathroom and heard me talking to her like I was whispering something through the wall. Nope. After that, whenever she was gone for the weekend, I always heard weird noises coming from her side of the dorm suite in the middle of the night. She moved out at the end of the year, and that was that, but I've always wondered what the fuck that was all about.